Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
I'm just waking up. My name is Rip Van Drummond, and I have been asleep for a very long time. It's been ages since I've been over to the states of Walnut Hills, California, where the foremost lucha historian, Alfredo Esparza, resides. And I am awake, and we're doing the first LuchaWorld podcast in eons.
LuchaWorld Podcast, episode 130. You know, the weird thing is, I think we should be in the 300s or 500s by now. If we actually did it, if we did it more frequently. But I mean, just from my experience of doing other podcasts and then other people doing podcasts of Lucha Libre, maybe if you're in Mexico, it makes sense to do it weekly. It's very difficult to continue to do these shows on a regular basis. It's
true that well, the thing is, I haven't listened to many wrestling podcasts lately, other than the 605s or the Wrestling Observer podcast. But
or you know what, the clip versions of Jim Cornette's podcast on YouTube.
The history,
just because and it's not a knock towards Jim Cornette or that podcast. It's just that I don't really care about his. I already know what his thoughts are on current wrestling, so it's I don't really need to hear it all the time. Plus, I don't really care about every single match in AEW.
Neither do I. I think that's
or WWE especially.
I don't have an interest in doing so many podcasts. They cover each match so intricately.
Yeah,
it's like they go over the
angles and everything. And the one benefit of being a CMLL fan is we have no angles to cover. Although I wish they had some, but it's like.
And I am very much Rip Van Winkle because I have watched less lucha than I think I have in years.
It was weird when the pandemic hit. I thought maybe we were going to watch more wrestling, and I think I watched less wrestling. I found other things to do, I think I've watched more older wrestling just because that's my that's what I've been really into. So it had a lot of the current stuff, and then there was a period where there was no current wrestling.
Yes.
Also, there wasn't as much, unless you watch AEW, WWE, but AAA, CML, and all those in Mexico were pretty much dormant for a while, or they would do maybe a couple of tapings, then disappear for a little time, come back. And to be honest, how much CMLL can you possibly watch?
No, and I mean, my heart is still with CMLL in a lot of ways, but no, I just can't.
And especially empty arena lucha sounds horrible. And it was horrible a lot for the most part.
Yeah, and it's funny that CMLL still has such great talent, but yet.
And they've lost a lot, too.
They've lost a lot. And even with the good talent they have, you're still just kind of...
Mailing in. A lot of mailed-in matches.
A lot of mailed-in matches. And we'll get to this in a few minutes, but when I was watching a few of the matches from the 88th Anniversary show, that's exactly what I thought. The moves are being done really well. For the most part, they're solid.
Yeah.
But still, it looks like the guys... aren't into it.
Yeah, it's we're just doing a show.
Yeah, gestures they're making to the crowd seem just kind of half-hearted.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just my perception.
No, that's what we're gonna talk about, because that's one of the main problems I have with CMLL.
Yes.
But yeah, the last couple of months, really, there hasn't been a lot. With AAA, obviously you have they've done Triple Mania, they do Heroes Immortales, they still have their TV shows. The trouble with AAA right now is that if Cubs fan isn't recording the show, there is no way anybody outside of Mexico can watch the show, because because of the lawsuit they're still going through.
Yes,
they can't. Their YouTube channel is invisible to the rest of the world. Basically, you're not watching anything, which is scary.
I know when I look for CMLL items,
you find
YouTube,
it right away.
I find some right away, but They used to give everything away practically for free.
Yeah.
And now suddenly they're not really doing that as much, and I don't think they have a product that people are going to want to shell out a lot of money to see.
And Kurt is dealing with Puebla withdrawals, something that we've talked about, he has not watched. That was one of the shows that isn't available now. Arena Puebla, for whatever reason, isn't streamed. The Tuesday show isn't streamed either, although the Tuesday show, they have TV shows. It ends up making its way onto. I think Cubsan records it and puts it up, but it's like, it's Tuesday. Tuesday shows are shit no matter what.
Well, thank God for Cubs fan, because Puebla,
and there's no Puebla because they're not recording. They're recording it, but there's no.
Fever. Yeah. I haven't listened to the Kelly Family in almost a year.
But you remember the last couple of you quit watching Puebla, so it's like
I did quit watching Puebla, but whenever I listen to the Kelly Family, it makes me want to listen to listen. Boy, am I dyslexic today or what? And am I misinterpreting everything and mispronouncing everything? But I can't listen to the Kelly Family because it makes me so sad that I can't turn on Puebla. Yeah, I don't watch Puebla, but I like being able to have the opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I kind of, it bothers me with CML is that they have so much stuff that they could actually make, like Guadalajara is another show that they could put up.
Yes.
Because Guadalajara, they're not even, some of the shows don't even have it's a lot of their local guys going up against guys from other territories. So it kind of seems a little different, but it's like you're not we can't see it, and it'd be kind of cool if we could see it. Might be bad, but at least you have that option of hey, maybe I'll watch it.
Because sometimes I would actually, believe it or not, I would turn on Puebla even after I stopped watching it.
Yeah.
But if I was folding clothes or doing stuff around the house, I just dug that little arena.
It's different. It's a different arena. So, really, I think the big talk for CML for the most part, it hasn't really been the shows themselves, but really who's leaving the promotion and whether or not there's like financial issues. Obviously, there's going to be financial issues with both promotions just because, COVID pretty much has...
COVID has changed the landscape for, probably most wrestling
and neither promotion has really been able to recover from, really AAA with the lawsuit going on.
That's what I want to ask you about.
Do you think... I should go... Do you think if Cubs fan didn't record the shows and make them available, do you think anybody outside of Mexico or people that follow Lucha like myself or you or Cubs fan or Rob Viper, people like that, the 10 people that watch Lucha all the time, do you think anybody else would have noticed that AAA isn't available to the rest of the world?
No,
they probably wouldn't. They'd be like, oh, it's not available. Maybe there's
just the hardcore diehards.
Yeah, would know. And it's like, that blows my mind that's going on with them. Because
it's really strange. In fact, before we started the podcast, I've been so out of the loop. I knew there was a lot going on in Mexico, especially with talent leaving CMLL. So, could you, in a nutshell, or not in a nutshell, however long you want to talk, explain both talent leaving and the lawsuit? Because I am so...
Well, before I get to the lawsuit, how disappointed are you to find out that Vangelis left CMLL?
Oh, man. Does that mean they're not going to have any more of those...
Nazi characters?
Yeah, and also, I'm going to miss those video packages where they show him at home in his little one-room apartment wearing his fanny pack.
That's right, he's one of those guys. Him, Loco Max, all those guys. Yeah.
Those always baffled me. It's almost like...
That was loud.
Biker gang. Biker man. Gang. It is El Espectro de Chris Colt.
Well, the one thing that's changed in this podcast in the last couple of years has been there are no longer any train sounds as the train track. Remember, they closed it down, remember?
They did?
Yeah, they did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they blocked it off. It's done. It's been something like, I think, the last 2 years or so.
I bet people who are commuting are happier than ever.
Yeah, they don't stop or anything. It's really weird because it's like you're so used to stopping on that street and waiting for the sometimes the train you get the signal and so you have to wait.
Yeah, the train situation is I am California proud forever, Southern California proud, but man, they don't think things out when they construct streets and highways here. And the way they built houses around all these little streets that had a lot of railroads surrounding it, commuters had to wait forever and ever. Elena would be late getting home. Sometimes she'd be an hour late to work just because a train went by.
Wow.
So she's going to be so happy.
Yeah, this train, it's gone. So that's one of the Also, the little baby that used to cry has grown up a little bit. Doesn't cry as much now.
Oh.
Remember the Asian baby that would walk every so often?
Oh, yes. Now it's just me who cries.
Now it's just you. But with CMLL, I'm trying. Oh, well, you were asking me. Well, the lawsuit, basically, it's all because of the Lucha Underground thing, where I guess the AAA Mexico side, Dorian Roldan, the Roldans, I guess they weren't sharing the revenue from the YouTube channel and all this other stuff that they were doing with their partners that were part of Lucha Underground and all this stuff, because they pretty much own AAA outside of Mexico. Basically, they basically own a portion of it. So in some form, I think that might end up being what happens at some point. I mean, they might actually have to ask, get a cut of the company or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of like, it's been going on since, I think, before the pandemic.
Wow.
It actually started around the time of the pandemic. So, which really made it difficult, because that was one of the things I was talking about when the pandemic came. And I was saying, well, there's going to be more time to watch Lucha and all this stuff. And then that happened. And it's like, wow, what a bad time for that to happen, because now you don't have the time. AAA is not going to be, you can't really watch the old episodes or whatever they have on their YouTube channel unless you're in Mexico, or you use a VPN, or you're somebody that's going to risk doing something with your computer to watch it.
Wow, last I heard, it was Lucha Underground who was being total dicks to the wrestlers.
Yeah. Right. So now it's just your usual wrestling lawsuit type of thing, mixed in with attorneys and stuff. But with CMLL, like, all the guys that have left, basically, not a lot of work in CMLL during the pandemic, and the work that there was mostly went suspiciously only to Ultimo Guerrero, his certain guys that are like the big stars.
He is like a modern day Connect from the WA days, where it was Connect everywhere in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, so the other guys weren't getting work, so what do? You leave. That's what happened with Vangelis. I think each of them left for different reasons. Like NGD kind of, when NGD left, they kind of got talked into leaving by Conan.
I can picture that.
Because of options and stuff. And it's funny, because I think one of the projects that they said they were going to be a part of didn't happen.
I could picture that too. I could picture that too.
So, and they might say, they'll probably say it's not true that it wasn't solely that, but there's a reason for, they talked about it. The brothers brought Quattro and Forastero were saying that they didn't talk to him directly. Sansón was the one that was talking to Conan more often, and so I think they realized they were doing the same stuff in CMLL and left. And they left they supposedly left in good terms, where they told them that they were leaving. They actually let CMLL send out that press release that NGD was no longer part of the promotion and all their titles are vacated and all this stuff, which is one of the other things. Mystico, that situation, I think, was also more of a realization that he wanted to go with his family and be a part of that. Because awesome. I think it's kind of funny that, and to be fair, I don't think he was that big of a to me, the biggest loss of and Estrellita also left, although nobody ever asked about Estrellita leaving, which tells you how. But you know what it is?
How much do they value the women's?
Well, now they value him a lot more. I think she might have made a mistake.
Wow. So is there?
Well, because everybody's leaving, so it's like, if that many guys leave, you need to elevate somebody.
Oh, definitely.
The women's division has kind of gotten a little bit more of a. They headlined the Anniversary, so.
So even though I didn't watch every women's match, because even back in the day they got really repetitive.
Oh, it's still the same thing.
But is it still, how about quality-wise, match-wise?
It's up and down. It's up and down.
Okay.
They've kind of, remember all those years where we were talking about how you can't really continue on with Amapola, Marcella, Dallas as the lone women getting the big opportunities? Well, now they kind of spread it around to everyone. like everybody gets a... But, the good thing is...
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but the good thing is, they've elevated Harochita, who's really, now the best worker in the promotion of the females. Of the females, she's really the best one. So she's kind of up there. We'll talk about it a little more, but with the people that are leaving, with Estrellita, the reason that they don't really bring it up is also she was doing a lot of... she's going to school to be in medicine, some sort of medical career.
Well, Mystico and Estrellita, I give it they have very good reasons for one going to school and the other
going with family.
That's how it should be.
I think the reality is also because it's very similar, like with Tejano Jr. When he left AAA. I don't know if you even knew he left AAA.
Of course not.
He left AAA. What he wanted to do was team up with his brother on the independents.
That's cool.
Which, I mean, it seems. I think he probably was making the same amount of money. Where it's like, yeah, I'll just leave. And he also got work with that group that's working with Alberto Patron, the Robles promotion.
What's the story with that group at this junction?
They run shows, but it's like just another indie promotion. They use a lot of talent. They use Alberto. They use a lot of AAA guys too, but like Psycho Clown, Pagano. But then they also use a lot of guys who have left other promotions. Cinta de Oro, which still pisses me off that Sin Cara chose that name to be called Cinta de Oro.
That's bizarre.
Because Cinta de Oro was the Juarez guy.
The Juarez guy.
Yeah, and he was a legend.
He was
my favorite wrestler.
Yeah, of all the people, you have brought him up more. The only person I think of more than him, or as much as him, when I think of Juarez, is Rocky Star.
Yeah, Rocky Star, the Guerreros, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like Ari Romero's another one, but really it's Rocky
cool.
Star, Cinta de Oro, and the Guerreros that are really the core group. But I don't know, like all those guys leaving, the only one that I really think was a big loss was NGD, and even then, like, their matches were so repetitive. Yes. So I don't know if it necessarily was. It looks bad because you're losing talent and you're not really like adding anybody that's significantly going to improve the rest of the roster. So instead of instead of having NGD being in repetitive matches, now you have like Okumura being on every single Friday show, Dark Magic getting a bigger role. Certain guys who aren't really that good.
Well, an artist could have the greatest model in the world, but if he just draws the same sketch over and over, if the booker is just doing the same thing over and over, it's a shame because Junior Dinamitas, they're my favorite trio of the last few years.
Yeah,
they re-sparked like my passion for trios matches.
I think the problem with them was that they were just in CML just with repetitive matches. But I also think they might have I think they might be a little burned out on wrestling. I kind of get the feeling that they don't. Well, Quattro's the one that was really good. Sansone was more charisma.
Yes.
And Forrester was kind of in the middle of both of them. But it kind of feels like once Quattro kind of started being a little bit getting the
rub. Kind of
no,
more the
no, not the rub. You know, like the thing that hit what you're saying about the CML guys that they looks like they're just going through the motions.
Yes,
he kind of has that also. So it's like it kind of feels like because even in AAA, I kind of haven't really been that. It's still kind of a little bit. It's gonna take a while for them to like kind of get. They gotta get inspired, and I think that's the problem. A lot of these guys aren't. I think some guys that work well all the time are just inspired naturally.
Yes,
and then there's other guys who just like they need something.
Well, in fact, I was gonna bring up. I only watched 2.5 matches of the CMLL 88th anniversary show, and in tribute to one of my favorite sitcoms ever, 2.5 Men, I watched 2.5 matches.
Yeah.
And
you live to tell about it.
Yeah, I coped through it. It was like an endurance, like 30 minutes. I watched for 30 whole minutes. But seriously, the two who just still looked really dynamic in their match were Volador Jr. and Titan.
Titan, yeah. Because they're self-motivated. They're guys who are self-motivated. Like, Titan is really good. And Volador Jr., he already knows what he's going to do, and he does it well. Like, what he does, it's very repetitive, but what he does it well. And it's really up to his opponent to bring in what they can do to make it a better match. And the guys they wrestled weren't that great.
Oh, I know. When I was watching the...
But you know what sucks about that match was that's where Mystico's departure hurt, who's now Dralistico, because that was going to be Mystico Caristico versus Volador Jr. Titan, which would have been a great match. And we end up getting Gemelos Diablo 1 and 2. But I think what the best way to like describe CML is like just look at what they did with Mystico. Mm-hmm. As soon as he left, what they just gave it to the other guy, Caristico. Now you're Mystico again, and people were happy with it.
Yes,
just tells you how little they thought of the other Mystico.
I think the way Mystico should handle it is he should nudge some, find some, like...
He's getting a lot of bookings now,
yeah,
too.
Well, I think you should nudge some celebrity friends who are in the music industry to write a song that uses all of his names that he's wrestled. Because they all rhyme, most of them.
Yeah. Well,
but when I saw Gemelos Diablo, one, you know, being a very old person...
They're not Gemelos Diablo original.
The original Gemelos Diablo were a gem.
Yeah.
Even when they were getting older here in LA, they were still awesome. They were great Rudos. They could be great Technicos if they wanted to. I'll never forget seeing them in a match at San Bernardino Arena with the Gibson brothers, Robert and Ricky. A
very underrated tag team, too.
Yes.
The Gibson brothers.
I
recommend people go look for Gibson brothers tag matches.
Amen.
Because they were amazing. That's what opened my eyes more to Robert Gibson afterwards, because initially I always thought Ricky Morton's the great one, you know, because Ricky Morton could do everything.
Yes.
And Robert Gibson was just really good.
Yes.
Well, if you watch the Gibson brothers, first of all, the Gibson brothers, Rick Gibson was really good. Like, I'm not even making it up, right?
Yes.
Rick Gibson was an excellent wrestler. Robert was also an excellent wrestler. So now you kind of see why those guys were good.
Absolutely. If you could have seen this match, there might be a televised match between the two teams from the Olympic, but I kid you not, and I know this isn't just my rose-colored glasses, they were doing mat wrestling fast mat wrestling, back and forth. It was probably only about a 20-minute match, but it was awesome.
And when you watched the Gemelos Diablo, the new version, you were like...
Whoa. Now, what I will say, they're much better selling than they are delivering the package.
Yeah.
I think they sell really well, but man, just executing,
and they were doing power moves, which you would think, okay, these are big guys they could do against really smaller guys, because Titanus, you know, he should be easy. And Volador Jr., we've seen his flexibility.
Yes.
You would have thought, I thought that match was...
It looked almost like a lengthy squash match. Not a squash match, but where... A match we'd see on TV where there's back and forth, but one team you can tell is the team that's going down. And... the other thing that Gemelos Diablo really have to do, I know they're paying homage to the originals with their outfits, but they gotta get rid of those straps because they spend half the match adjusting their straps. My God.
Remember Triton, when he used to lift up his pants?
Yes!
And I think somebody asked him one day why he did that all the time. And he said it was because it moved, and he was also getting I think it was nerves also.
That's pretty honest.
Yeah, but before we talk about this, we should talk about Dos Leyendas, because they actually this was basically the show that was going to be held in March 2020, and they actually were going to headline with Carbonario and Felino, and because of the pandemic. They weren't, and because they wanted to do it in front of a crowd because it was a hair match, and you know they got to give them a cut of what the attendance is. They waited till September, and they decided to do a double big show event in September. Basically, both would be celebrating the anniversary, and this one was going to be Dos Leyendas, which was honoring, of course, Lucharoth and Sangre Chicana. And look, they kept the same main event. I think they changed the entire rest of the card because so many guys left. With the Diamante Azul left, another guy. How happy were you when Diamante Azul left?
I was so jazzed. I didn't realize there'd be so many negatives about the other people leaving, but no, Diamante Azul leaving any promotion is a gift to that promotion and its fans.
But just Diamante Azul, when he left, held the national heavyweight title while in CMLL. Have you been following the drama behind that title caused by Diamante Azul?
No, I have not.
My goodness, you should look it up. You should just go through the I think it's on. I think if you go to Cubs Fan or Lucha Report or my LuchaWorld site, you'll find the reports. Every week, a press conference, either by the commission complaining about Diamante Azul and threatening him, Diamante Azul threatening the commission. CMLL wanted no part of this of the situation, so they still have the title. They're gonna hold the tournament at some point, but they basically decided that because there were so many issues, that's why they switched over the Hechicero match to him versus Ultimo Guerrero for the CMLL World Heavyweight title at the anniversary. But it has been so constant that Dinamitas, when they left, they were the national trios champions. They did not complain, and I think they held one of the singles titles. I think the middleweight title, the one that I think I think the other title was a CMLL title, but they held the national trios titles.
Mm-hmm.
No complaint. They left them. They could keep them. They didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Diamante Azul has made it his mission to hold that title forever. He even created the independent Mexican national heavyweight title just because he needed to have that title.
What a mark.
But isn't that like the stupidest thing? like I just look at that guy and I'm like, I hated him already because I've heard his reputation as being an asshole. And that one time he shoved the little parrot around.
Yes.
Which I thought was the worst, like the most despicable thing someone could do. And the way and the times the New Japan guys would come in and he would try to do his own angle with them. Remember? I remember he did that with Okada, and Okada was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, what's going on here?" It's like, I'm not gonna wrestle you. But it's like he left, and that's been constant, nonstop with him. It's just ridiculous. But I'm glad he's gone. Dos Leyendas. If you've not seen this show, basically it's like your slightly good to average Friday show.
Oh, wow.
So you didn't miss anything.
Wow.
You didn't miss anything. They have Volador Jr. forming his own group. I think you might have seen it. Those guys that come in. I think they were in the anniversary. Those guys come in. They're Los Depredadores. And it's like a bunch of guys, young guys, that train with them. Has Volador Jr. teamed with any of those guys? In CMLL, what is the answer?
I think the answer is no.
No.
Just that you asked it. I know that.
No. So it makes no sense for him to have his own faction if he's not going to team with them.
Yes.
I mean, it's stupid. Like you gotta to me, it would make sense for him to team with them and elevate one or two of them. Like to me, you elevate Magia Blanca or Diamond. I don't think is that great, but elevate them. I mean, at this point in time, Magia Blanca, Diamond are better than like some of these other guys that they've got on top. Like honestly, they got a guy named Rugido who's part of the group, and then Magnus. Those are the four guys that they have one more that they haven't unveiled yet. Which I mean, I don't know what they're waiting for. And then I think there's some people that think Titan might be in it. I think you have to have Titan in that group. Otherwise, it's Volador Jr. and a bunch of like guys who nobody really cares about. If you put Volador Jr. with Titan and then bring up one guy, then it makes more sense. Like have hit them team up with one of those guys every so often just to like give them something. But so those guys were in the opening match. You did not miss anything if you did not see the opening match. That was followed by a women's match. You did not miss anything if you did not see the women's match. That was then followed by a Relevos Increíbles match, which was Euphoria, Hechicero, and Mystico, now formerly Caristico, going up against Atlantis Jr., Nero Casas, and Ultimo Guerrero. That was a good match. So you get one good match out of this show. Atlantis Jr., remember he was listed as a heavyweight in the, I don't know if you saw in the fan poll.
I do remember that.
He was in the heavyweight, and I even like, Atlantis Jr. heavyweight? I can say I think he is a heavyweight.
Really?
I think he's bulked up. Like he actually looks a lot bulkier. He's either a light heavyweight, he's kind of in the middleweight, light heavyweight level where he's bulked up, where he could actually be a heavyweight. And I think honestly, at this point in time with so much talent leaving, you might as well try to do that.
True.
But it's like he's still good. That's the other thing. That's good.
Cool.
Nero Casas never gets old. Never. I mean, he's 60 something, and he's still an amazing worker.
He's like.
He's the only one that really gets what you have to do to be a wrestler. Honestly.
Oh my God! No, I every now and then, somebody asks me, like somebody young asks me, like who's becoming a wrestler, saying who should I watch? I'm saying lots of Negro Casas.
Yeah.
Lots.
And they're like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on their.
We got to give a shout out to our friend Zuka King, who
did know. Yeah, he definitely
did know and actually followed
big
through.
Big fan of it.
Awesome guy.
And this was the only match where they had Hechicero and Ultimo Guerrero who are to set up their next match at the anniversary, which makes sense. I think the women's match also had a little bit of that also, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. And of course, I always have to mention this in every podcast. The one woman who I'm certain will retire probably soon, but I will miss so much as Amapola. To me, she's like the last of the old school lady wrestlers.
She's got 20 more years in this career, man.
Power to her then. Power to her.
I mean, Lola Gonzalez still pops up and wrestles every once
Does
in a while.
she really?
So, yeah, I think she's not as much, but it was for a while she was still doing that. There's a couple of other ones that are from the 80s that are still showing up every.
But
remember the Viano 3's widow. What's her name? Oh God, I forgot her name. But she wrestled. Remember, she came up La Infernal. Remember, she came up back and wrestled.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, she wrestled before the pandemic.
So I'm getting old.
Yeah, yeah. But
59 here.
That match was good. Then you get the Volador Jr. Gran Guerrero Copa Independencia. Basically, when you get Gran Guerrero and Volador Jr., it's pretty much. Remember, I told you that Volador Jr. his opponent has to bring in something a little different to make it a good match.
Yes.
Gran Guerrero basically doesn't bring anything new to the table against him, so it's not that great. And I'm not knocking Gran Guerrero. It's just more that Gran Guerrero, I think, is more of a fit as a tag or trios guy right now.
Yes.
In singles matches, he can probably, if there's somebody a little like Titan, I think could do more with him. But Volador Jr., because he sticks to so much of the same stuff, it doesn't work with him and Gran Guerrero. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, so, I mean, Ultimo Girl would be different because Ultimo Girl does a lot of different stuff. And then you have the main event, Barbaro Carbonario beating Felino. Went only about 12 minutes for a main event, which is very short.
And it's all one fall now, right?
Yeah, one fall. I think all these matches were like one fall. And so was the anniversary. But the funny thing is, like, you were talking about the highlights. You watched only the highlights of this match.
And I just...
How long were the highlights? Like about 5-6 minutes, because they also did the interview afterwards.
4 minutes, and I just want to say it was the worst compilation of highlights I have ever seen in my entire life. All it was topes and drop kicks and
arm drags.
And arm drags. And I'm not even talking the build up to a tope. I mean, it was literally somebody diving through the ropes. A tope that you've seen in every other match that night.
Well, I will tell you that those 12 minutes were pretty much what you saw in the highlights. That's basically what it was.
And from two of my favorite luchadores.
And you know what it was? When I was watching it, I was thinking, maybe they're doing it this way because remember Felino's gimmick is he's the fastest wrestler in Mexico.
Yes.
Not anymore, but back in the day, that was his gimmick.
That's why Superboy liked working.
And it worked. And it worked back then. And that's the way they were working the match, where he was working really fast. But I think at a certain point, I'm like, this, because the video lasts 22 minutes. And then you realize, like, it's 12 minutes of a match. Then I think, like, about 8 minutes of haircut, and then 2 minutes of Carbonario like doing his post-match interview.
Wow.
So it's like, it wasn't anything that, I mean, I'm glad it was over. The one thing I will say is Carbonario looks like he's back in shape again, because he had that injury and was out for a while. He looks like he's kind of starting to get back into it. So I'm kind of excited to see if he starts working with other people that can actually like go more his speed. The fact that he did the tope through the middle rope, I thought was really a good thing. But Felino, I mean, his days as a main guy, and the bad thing is we've been saying that for 10 years. It's still gonna go on.
He's somebody I still love seeing in a trio, though.
Yeah, he's still fun. I mean, I just think that, and that's the problem. Like with CMLL, they think like they gotta do like big matches for everyone, and they don't realize how like like. With All Japan Pro Wrestling, you didn't have Giant Baba. Like every once in a while, we would get Giant Baba in a big tag match, teaming up with like maybe Jumbo or Taue or somebody young against another big name tag team. But most of the time, he was like in the mid card, teaming up with all the older guys.
He knew he was no longer a main eventer.
Yeah,
and he didn't have this huge ego where he had to put himself in the main event, which really is what most people in Power would do.
Yeah,
and a lot of those matches were even kind of comedy matches.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you have a lot of older wrestlers in CML. I mean, Satanico's back wrestling. I mean, he's 72. No, he's probably in the better side of the he's not great, but it's like he's still
I
wrestling.
just get worried. I don't know. I guess since I'm 59 and I'm just feeling just the regular. I mean, I'm still the same immature brat I've always been since I was 17, but my body's telling me to take a little better care of itself. And so I guess I start getting nervous when I hear about 72-year-old men wrestling.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, for the most part, he's still, he wrestles primarily in Guadalajara, so, but he does get a lot of indie bookings, but I mean, it's like, so does all these other, like Raul de Jalisco and all these other older guys. But that show, they did the best part of that show was really the Sangre Chicana segment, because he brought in all his, the kid. Well, I don't think it was all his kids, but I think it was like the 4 daughters and 3 sons, and all 4 daughters looked amazing. There's 3 of them wore masks because they were wrestling. The one that's not wearing a mask, if the rest of them look like her, I mean, they're very attractive.
Well, when he was young, man, he
was a good-looking dude. Yeah, now he
handsome
looks like he's been
very old.
Yeah, he looks
But
way
man,
older.
I'm glad he's getting the props he's getting.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
So they come out and they're doing all the talk. And one of the women that was there was his daughter that works in AAA.
Oh,
Leyendas.
really?
She was there, and they even announced her being there.
That's
Leyendas.
cool.
So it was like, wow, that's a AAA person getting mentioned by CMLs, and they're constantly shitting on AAA nonstop. So while this is all going on, all you hear is the fans yelling, "Suegro, suegro, suegro," with father-in-law. Because of how good looking the girls are. And I'm surprised CML didn't try to make a play for the other daughter that was their what is it, Lady Chicana? Mm-hmm. But she was attractive. I mean,
wow.
I think I would go after all the women, all the Chaga Chicana's daughters.
Then again, we're talking wrestling, so they don't always follow common sense.
They don't have to be good wrestlers to be in CMLL.
No.
Look at or IWRG or any of these promotions.
Hey, it's like I've said before. I love great wrestlers, but if you're somebody who can get over and you're not hurting your opponent, power to you.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a bad worker, as long as you're not hurting the other person. If you can get over, that's awesome.
So then we get to the anniversary, and you just mentioned the first match and how that was. Well, actually, you didn't mention the first match. You mentioned the tag match.
I mentioned the tag match. The other match I saw was
the opening match, which is
Templario versus Rojo Jr.
Dragon Rojo
Jr. And again,
for the vacant Mexican middleweight. Mexican national middleweight title, because all these matches were title. They did a Night of Champions, which they're gonna do annually now. They might not do it for the anniversary. I would do it again for the anniversary next year, just because I don't think, even if you're getting attendance, you're probably better off waiting another year or two for a big mass match on an anniversary, because so much talent has left that you kind of have to figure out what mask would make sense to drop on an anniversary, and whether or not it's worth it to give that person a share of the big money.
Absolutely. So I watched the Templario versus Dragon Rojo Jr. Again, solid, but you could tell their hearts weren't into it, and okay, the other match that I was about to watch. Okay.
Wasn't the women's match?
No, it wasn't the women's.
The other tag match.
I was about to watch. I don't even know who all was in it, but I look on my television set. There is Rey Cometa, and I'm so excited. I said, "Oh yeah, Rey Cometa." Then in the other corner, who do I see? Espanto Jr. Now let me ask you, Fredo, why the fuck does CMLL hate me?
Well, they hate all of us, let's be honest.
Yeah, but they know how I feel about... I know they don't know who I am, but they still have to know how I feel.
Did you know that Espanto Jr. and Akuma have a huge fan following online? That's why they got that match.
Oh, dear.
But, the other guy's really good. Not really good, but he's first of all, he's a really fun guy, like in interviews.
Yes.
Akuma. And he's pretty good.
But
he's pretty much... And the same thing happens with Rey Cometa, his brother, Espiritu Negro. Mm-hmm. Nice guy, but he's not very good. Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening a lot with if you see a lot in CMLL. Remember we used to say that about in trios matches, there was always one guy on each side that was really bad.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty much even in tag matches, it's one guy on tag match is pretty bad.
I think that works better with a trio.
Yeah. So we should start with Templario Dragon Rojo Jr. You said that match didn't really. You thought it was okay.
No, yeah, I mean, I thought it was solid.
Were you worried Dragon Rojo Jr. was going to win? Because it makes more sense for Templario to win, because he's really good.
Yes.
I mean, you've seen him enough where you're...
other than...
And then Dragon Rojo Jr. is pretty much shot at this point. Although I don't think he's bad.
No, and it wasn't just high spot. They did some kind of cool wrestling in there, too, but... It just that was the first match I watched, and I could just kind of tell, wow, they don't look very excited.
You want to know the funniest thing about CMLL? Remember all those years they had the tag team of Puma King and Tiger?
Yeah.
And they also had the tag team of Dragon Rojo Jr. and Pulvera. Mm-hmm. Remember those two tag teams? I don't know if you're familiar with Puma King and Felino and Tiger as a tag team. You've seen them. They were good. They did it frequently in CMLL. Did you see a lot of Dragon Rojo Jr. and Pulvera as a tag team?
Yes, I did.
Or in trios? they were pretty good too, right? They had a really good match on an independent show that I saw a couple years ago in DTU, and so you would think, well, Dragon Rojo Jr.'s back, Pulvera's around, put them back together, make them a tag team, perfect. You have something solid because both guys are not the greatest, but they're actually good, reliable workers. Give them a little push as a tag team. Right now, that CMLL's in 2 tag teams. Have them go up against Rey Cometa and Espiritu Negro, the Dream Catchers. I love the name that they have.
That's great.
Have them go up against them. No, what did they do in Puebla? They have Pulvera team up with Felino Jr. So you have 2 guys from previous tag teams team up, and they beat Rey Cometa and Spiritu Negro for the the national tag team titles. I almost said Arena Coliseo tag team titles. There's so many fucking tag titles.
So
this was you got to see them retain the titles and then drop them. Actually,
so the theme song.
Although I will say Felino Jr. and Pulvera, Felino Jr. being the former Tiger, him and Pulvera are good workers, so it's actually a good team. It just doesn't make to me. If Felino Jr., I want to see him team up with like another animal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like somebody with a character like a lion or something, a tiger or something.
Unless it was a llama, that would be cool.
That would be cool. Pulvera, I mean, he has his regular tag team partner just came back. Why not just have him team up with them and challenge them? It would make sense for that to be and then win it, because I think that would be kind of cool, because it would be like a cool redemption. But that didn't happen. What you said about that match, you could pretty much say for most of these matches, except for really Hechicero and Ultimo Guerrero, and also with the Dos Leyendas. And I know everybody talks about what's wrong with CMLL, talent leaving, attendance not being great because of the pandemic, and they have limits to how many people they could have in, and all this other stuff, the bad booking and all this stuff.
Yes.
But I think the biggest problem this promotion has is that it is the booking. There's really no passion in these matches. Like, there's no heart.
Agreed.
There's no, and it's not, I don't just mean it like the guys bringing it, but like even in storyline form. Like in storyline, like who gives a crap if Templario wrestles Dragon Rojo Jr.?
Absolutely.
Nobody cares.
Yes.
I mean, they voted for that match, but it's like, I mean, don't you want something like, don't you want like, and they try, like even Dragon Rojo Jr. when he did an interview, he's like, this guy beat me the last time in a tournament. He's like, ooh, tournament. That's my only thought. It's like a tournament. The monthly losing in 3-minute tournament. It's not that big a deal. There's not enough there's no real, and the guys, they don't, also that.
They're not into it.
They're not into it. Like, they don't have like this personality. Like Templario's pretty much a good worker. But he's not he's pretty much just a good wrestler. That's basically it. Like, it's not like, he's not a heel. He doesn't come across like a bad guy. Dragon Rojo Jr. It's hard to hate a guy who's been through so many injuries, and then when he does interviews, he's a really nice guy.
Absolutely.
It's hard. That's what also hurts CMLL. They're doing these interviews, and all these guys they break character. That's what made Rush so great when he was early on, when he did Ingobernables, because he was an asshole all the time.
Absolutely.
Never stopped being an asshole. When he stopped doing it and started recognizing that his dad was in the promotion, and how he started talking about his brothers, that kind of just killed it for me, like with him.
Yeah, it takes off the shine. It's funny, I've been watching a lot of old Black Wardman matches recently, and there was somebody who was a classic luchador who you could put him on the mic and he was great, but he didn't have to. He was like a silent movie villain. Because,
he didn't have to, because he could, he's been in World Class, the stuff I've been watching.
Yeah.
And he does this one thing where all the fans are booing because he's wrestling, I think, one of the Latino, the jobber guys, I think Tony Torres. And the fans are all like, and are like reacting to him. I mean, he looks and he's like, oh, shut up.
Or as he would shut up, Mexican.
Yeah, like I think he just said shut up at that point. And it's like, and it's like the crowd, oh, they get even louder.
Yeah.
And these guys don't do anything. The only one that did it was Ultimo Guerrero. And the only reason he did it is because of everything that went down, where Sobrano Jr. blamed him for everything that's going on with all the guys leaving, and called him the cancer. And he actually took up that name. He was on a show. We were like trying to figure out if he was going to bring it up. And he's like, He's like, yeah, I'm the cancer of CMLL. I run the promotion. He's like, I don't just book the promotion. I also plan out the matches. I tell everybody where they're gonna wrestle. I'm also the referee. I also handle all the travel and all this stuff. He just started like talking all this stuff, and it worked for him. Now people hate him. So he's working against Hechicero, who's like the super worker, but Hechicero is another guy who actually gets that he has to be a Rudo. Mm-hmm. So he started doing that also. The only thing was that Ultimo Guerrero, and he let Ultimo Guerrero be the Rudo this time. He was more of the face.
Yes.
But yeah, the Templario Dragon Rojo Jr., I thought it was I think it probably was the second best match on the card. But like I said, you could, honestly, Hechicero Ultimo Guerrero is like the best match. All the other 4 matches were kind of just like, if somebody told me they prefer the women's match, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Or I preferred the tag matches, that's fine.
Where the women's match used to be sometimes okay, sometimes not so good, but it was always kind of the punchline of the promotion because, for one reason or another.
And you mentioned the tag match, which I'll agree with you. I think the thing there is that the Melos Diablo are so inexperienced going up against these guys. But it also tells you how tired fans are of watching the same match. Because the other, there was 3 teams in the fan poll. The third team was Ultimo Guerrero and Gran Guerrero. Mm-hmm. And tell me, don't you think Titan Volador Jr. versus the Guerreros would have been a lot better?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the fans were so tired of seeing them that they went with the Gemelos Diablo. And the Gemelos Diablo are just not good.
They're not. They're...
And they were getting pushed towards like the top. But now they're teaming with Sagrado.
Oh.
See, that was my reaction.
Yes.
That was my reaction.
Yes.
So basically, they've kind of just gone into the mid card, which, because when they started teaming with, it's like, there's no way they're going to elevate Sagrado.
Absolutely.
Because they're just not. So then they kind of just went down there, and it's like, okay, good.
Sagrado will be Sagrado.
Yeah, that's when you know the promotion. So then the next tag match happens, and like you said, Espanto Jr. was in it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, you didn't watch any of that match?
No, as soon as I saw Espanto Jr., I said, I want to watch the show you turned me on to, The Wire. I wanted to watch another episode of that instead.
So guess what happens early in this match? Espanto Jr. kicks Rey Cometa in the face. All of a sudden, you see 2 teeth flying out of Rey Cometa's mouth. He busted to the teeth. So it even gets better. It gets even better. So they get back up. Rey Cometa slaps him across the face twice, and it was really hard. I was like, and he kept hitting him really hard the rest of the match. And I think at certain points, Espirito Negro started working more with Espanto Jr., which made it even worse. But I thought that was probably the worst match on the card.
Wow.
Just because there's only so much Rey Cometa can do, and Akuma and Espanto Jr. are just not at that level of workers.
Okay, just from what I remember of
Espanto Jr.'s bad.
He's bad, and he never seemed motivated to me.
And he's not good. He's just not good.
No, he's just not good.
There's nothing he can do. And I think that also the problem with CML is that they don't have somebody in charge that's like, hey, that guy's bad. Let's go with somebody else.
Absolutely.
And of course, you see that because they have how else would Dark Magic be around for so long?
True. I never thought of that, but true.
He hasn't left.
Yeah.
So then after that match, well, actually that was the fourth match. The match before that was the only match that I thought was good. Mm-hmm. I would say it was probably in the 3-star level.
Yes.
Which tells you how the show was to pay for this. Hechicero beating Ultimo Guerrero for the CML World Heavyweight title. I thought the cool thing was before they start the match, Hechicero introduced his second, who ended up being El Satanico. So this was the beginning of the new Infernales.
Oh. Okay.
So there's a new Infernales group. Satanico is the lead, like the figurehead.
Yes.
He's still gonna wrestle every once in a while. Actually, he just wrestled. They did an Atomicos match, 8-man tag, where he teamed up with the 3 new members. The 3 new members. Let's see. Do you know? Have you kept up with it?
I have no clue.
Okay, I said Hechicero's the first one. Mm-hmm. Name the other 2. Just off your top of the head with CML, knowing all the CML characters. It's easy. It's pretty easy. I think.
Yeah, but I'm pretty simple.
The fact that it should be easy. Like just take a guess of the CMLL guys who look like they're like they could be.
Well, of course, Hechicero is
from hell. Just think of guys who.
Who else could be from hell?
Espanto Jr.
Oh God.
He's from another hell. I mean the good hell.
Yeah, not from Dante's Inferno hell, but like bad boy hell.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. I don't know.
Really?
I really don't know. I'm sorry.
Mephisto and Euphoria.
Okay.
Euphoria formerly, remember he did the breakup with Ultimo Girl?
I do
so
remember
now he's with them.
Okay.
Mephisto also joining them. I was kind of bummed out that they added Mephisto because I kind of have a feeling that Averno, there's always room for Averno possibly going back to CMLL. And I think I would prefer Averno with Mephisto again. Although knowing CMLL, they just throw in Averno into this group if he were to come back.
Yes.
I'm not sure if he's going to come back. It's more of a he's been working a lot with Mystico. And I wouldn't be shocked if they want to do like some sort of return rivalry in CML with them. They're going to work in Guadalajara, but that doesn't mean that he's going to come to CML, the main group. But the one guy I was really like wanted to be the third member was actually Sobrano Jr.
Yeah.
Just because it would be different.
Oh my God.
Just because it would be different, and you get to turn him.
Interesting.
And he gets to team up with his dad, Euphoria.
Wow. And is Soberano Jr.
He's injured right now. He's still out injured.
Okay.
Yeah. And we don't even know if he's going to be around CML because he's one of the guys who also complained about Ultimo Girl. But
now that was a guy I freaking loved watching.
Yeah, he's been out with an injury.
Sorry.
But like that's the only I thought maybe that would work. But I'm okay with Mephisto, Hechicero, and Euphoria just because they're similar look, and Hechicero and Euphoria are really good. Mephisto's kind of slipped a bit, but he's still better than most. Like, he's better than half the guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've always dug him.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I feel totally foolish not knowing who the other two members were.
It was easy, right? Now that you know, it's like,
it
it was
very easy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you also, and the other reason I wanted Soberano Jr. is because eventually they're going to do the Laguneros versus Infernales feud. And you have a cool matchup where you would have Euphoria versus Gran Guerrero, Ultimo Guerrero versus Hechicero, and then you could go Soberano Jr. versus Templario, the two flashy guys going against each other. And then you could also do the family feud. Euphoria, Soberano Jr. versus the Guerreros. That would be fun also.
Yes.
But they went with Mephisto, which still works. I mean, Mephisto's still pretty good. I don't know. I thought that was like the icing to this match, just because Hechicero beating Ultimo Girl for the world title was kind of like a big surprise.
It was like the little
like you don't expect
kind of the old story of Pandora's box where all this evil is released, but there's just one little fairy of hope.
Yeah, and then Hechicero's like the hope where because how many years were we like constantly talking about how he's never on Friday shows?
Oh hell yeah! I mean, and Hechicero is a guy that I would watch wrestling anybody. I don't care who it is. Hechicero is.
And I think that's the other thing that I think CML should really like start focusing on, like Hechicero working with other like if they could work out bringing in more people from New Japan. Have him work with Hechicero every once in a while, He's
do you have an opinion? Do you think that things are just gonna kind of be this tepid as long as Ultimo Guerrero is in charge, or would it take him being out of charge for things to brighten up? Or
it's not just him; it's the whole promotion.
Okay.
It's not just him, because they have the old luchadors. Like if you look at, I don't know how much you've read up on the 1970s CML EMLL when Salvador Lucharoth, the older one, stepped down and gave the power to the one that currently runs it.
Yeah, I
the older one.
Yeah.
He's not running it, but he's kind of like the figurehead, and then his son is the one that's running it. But his son was also involved with that group as well. I don't know if you ever kept up with it, but there's a lot of similarities to that, because remember a lot of talent left when those guys took over. Ray Mendoza.
In the 70s when the UWA
when UWA formed. Ray Mendoza left, and then all these other guys decided that they wanted to leave also. And if you look at CML's roster from like about 75 through, actually for much of the 80s, was very barren. It wasn't like as strong. They had their crew, but then they basically, what turned them around was really Paco Alonso kind of accepting the UWA guys to work back, and that kind of changed it up a bit. But if you look at the EML main guys, it was really they weren't really the huge stars of Mexico. It was really the independent guys that were the big stars.
And it's funny when you say that. I remember a period where they were airing the Friday night matches here. I think it was 86, and I do remember that I can't remember what part of the year it was, but that was a period where you could tell all these great guys like Alfonso Dantes and everybody else just seemed like
And then it was good. It was still good because even like, don't get me wrong, those guys back then, I think.
Oh, they were great, but
the quality of wrestling back then was a little bit.
It was, but I do remember a period where they looked like they didn't want to be at work tonight.
And then you also had a lot of matches where it was like a lot of random undercard guys that would show up for a while and then they would disappear.
Yes.
And that's kind of like I kind of view that the same. And the only difference is when the breakup came, when those guys left and started UWA, EMLL back then they had Paraguayo.
Yes.
Young Paraguayo, who lasted there for about, I think, 3-4 years before he went to UWA. And that kind of kept them like that straight in there. And they also had Sangre Chicana and all those guys.
Would you love to see footage of that?
And, and that's the thing. There is no Paraguayo level right now in CML.
No.
Like Mystico would have been like the closest thing, but his boom was years ago.
And a Paraguayo charisma comes only every so often.
Yeah.
I mean, he was unusual.
Because even the young guys that they bringing up, none of them show me like even young guys, not just even CML, even like I think the there's flashy guys that you want to see wrestle against the top stars.
Yeah.
But the charisma isn't like there's no real like charisma guy that you're like, oh my god, this guy's gonna turn business around.
And I wonder guys who are learning the business if they're I know a lot of older wrestlers who, and what bothers me about my generation is, friends I have who are around my age who actually were involved in the business are always griping about
it's not like it used to be.
Yeah, not like it used to be, and how young wrestlers don't do this, that, and the other thing. And there are things that I think those wrestlers could do where I think the older wrestlers are correct. If they did some old school stuff, it would work, but a lot of them are probably not being taught that.
Yeah, and
they don't know you're supposed to do it.
And like we were saying, most of these matches, guys weren't showing a lot of personality towards the fans. Ultimo Guerrero did, and then you had Hechicero did a really good job, with the whole Satanico thing. Like, and even when Satanico shows up, he has so much more. Same thing with Nero Casas. They have so much more charisma that they just have it natural, where people just realize like they're gonna.
And even charismatic characters, like here in the States. Whether they're kind of more babyface or heel and is almost like a hybrid nowadays, they all come out with a smile and a cocky swagger. Yeah. It's, at least when I watch it, that seems, maybe that's what gets over today, but I think it would be more efficient if you had kind of more of a variety of, that's just my uneducated observation, because I do dig AEW because I dig Orange Cassidy, because he is Titanes in El Ring. He is Argentina wrestling brought to the States.
I think the one thing I like about them just going kind of elevating Hechicero is that he kind of like it kind of just seems so different. Like there's a fresh breath of air in the room. You know what I mean? Like just because you have him in there with Volador Jr., Mystico, and Ultimo Guerrero.
And I have no idea.
Although I don't think he's in that group yet.
My hunch is this was not by design, but you would know better.
Yeah, Talon leaving, and that's
what I was also thinking is that why you think Hechicero has finally been elevated? Because I thought like that would excite me if I heard he's being elevated, whether it's by design or other people.
It was funny because I brought this up that because the Infernalis thing. Mm-hmm. I brought up how I was curious if they would have done it, if NGD, the Dinamitas would have left, if they would have done this. And there was a few people that said, they were already planning on doing this. I said, no, they weren't. They talked about it. They were never planning on doing it. Because remember, this thing with Satanico and Hechicero, they feuded over they were feuding on the independents. Mm-hmm. And Hechicero would constantly tell Satanico, hey, let's have a match. I'll put up this title. You put up the name of the Infernalis. Because Hechicero wanted to create the new Infernalis. This has been going on for like 3 or 4 years, so it wasn't like something that they've been planning for 3 or 4 years. It was more like the last couple of months when NGD left, they were like, hey, let's just bring back the Infernalis, and Hechicero brought it up multiple times on Informa.
Wow.
He brought it up multiple times, never happened. So it's not like they could have done it years ago. You think they couldn't have done? You think AAA CML wouldn't have created a faction within the last 4 years? They did. Like look at the Ingobernables. They created the Ingobernables as soon as Rush and them left. They brought up a new Ingobernables. They could have done this a long time ago. They didn't, and it's not like they can't have 6-7 factions or trios in CMLL. But I think
remarkable.
But I think it was that they left and they had to do it. So
Yes.
it was one of those weird things. So then the main event, I already talked about the national tag match. I thought it wasn't that great. The women's match, Haruchita Lluvia versus Dark Silhouette, Reina Isis. I actually thought it was okay for a main event. It wasn't great. I would say it was probably like the second. I thought it was the second best match on the card, honestly.
Yeah, I will actually try to give that a watch.
It wasn't. I think they're still kind of limited. Haruchita's really good. The one thing I will say is that Lluvia kind of has improved since joining, teaming up with Haruchita, because they do a lot of tag team moves now. It was funny because when Satanico was doing the whole, he wanted to revive the Infernales, that started around, like, I think in August when he started. He also mentioned he wanted to form a trio of women Infernales. And I thought
I actually dig that concept.
I like the idea, but he mentioned he wanted them to be 3 students. Which
bad idea.
His students, his students, not students current. His students, which is Silhouetta, Dark Silhouetta, who's good. Zuxis, who's not in CMLL right now, but he would want her back. And then Lluvia. And I thought, well, I mean, I like Lluvia in that group, but I also think Haruchita's kind of turned her career around. Also, the fact that she's dating or married to Ultimo Guerrero also helps. But you know the other thing I noticed with her, remember how everybody used to talk about Yedra all the time? But it was because she had looks and she could work.
Yes.
Lluvia, I think I might have mentioned this a few times in previous podcasts where I thought her outfits didn't match what she...
You have.
There was no sex appeal to her. She dumped the whole those, like, I guess that's, I don't know what you call those pants that they wear that cover up a lot, like stockings or whatever.
Oh my god, yeah. It was almost like
because it looked like she was covered up.
It was almost like a kitschy woman Paraguayo in a way. It was weird. It was
because I always thought she might be like the one that they could kind of use as a sexy star type version in CMLL. Somebody that they use for their they might not be great workers, but sex appeal.
To, worry about her shooting on them.
Yeah, because she wouldn't. I don't think she would ever do that. And so then she got rid of that, and now she dresses
I forgot
better,
about
and she's
that
improved.
outfit. I totally forgot.
She looks more major league now.
Okay, I got to look her up now.
Yeah, she looks more major league.
Because I do remember, and to be honest, was it not sexy? It just, in my mind, looked silly.
Made her look plain.
Yeah.
And so like that's the thing. And you were talking about women's wrestling in CML, what I think, and it's like I think they've given them more of a push. I don't know if it's necessarily been great, but if you're gonna do it, they should have done this years ago. Honestly, what did it hurt for them to do every so often a women's main event? Like,
well, I don't know if anybody agrees.
And they missed out on Prime Marcella, Amapola, Princessa Suhei.
Yes.
Dark Angel. Those were like the times they should have.
And I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this, but there's an occasional, like, just from my eyes.
Yeah.
An occasional Amapola who is a good base, a good leader. But there's a lot of girls who I think look talented, but there's nobody guiding each other. And I don't know if I'm. Do you think I'm off on that, or?
No, there is, because it's also happening in the independents. If you watch a lot of if you follow Rob's other Twitter account where he puts up the gifs and all that.
Oh yeah.
You'll see a lot of really bad women's wrestling on the independent scene, especially at IWRG, like some of the stuff they do. But it's, to me, what has helped them a little bit is that they brought in Stephanie Vacker, who's good, and they brought back Dark Silhouetta. She's not great, but she's way better than what they had before, and she's getting a push. Suddenly she's like kind of, and she turned heel also, which was also the other thing that helped her. But and also they're pushing Haruchita, who's really good.
Cool.
They kind of, I think the reality was that they couldn't keep going Marcella Amapola all the time, because we've already seen that, and they're already way older. I think Amapola, if she's in there with Haruchita or something like that, works perfect. But if you're putting her with Marcella, it's Marcella can't. It's not even Marcella. Remember Marcella 100% was fast, speed. She was really creative in the ring. Now it's more of she's slower, not that great.
Yeah.
Because Amapola never used speed. It was more of being a really good.
Oh, she's a great. Well, when I brought up Black Wardman before, one of the things that I love as I'm watching these old matches is I'm watching what's available of him in the 70s and then into the 80s when he couldn't bump so well.
Yeah.
But that guy could still work a match because of his charisma. And he did, I mean, I'll get into this another time, but such a unique heel, and that's kind of Amapola. I mean, there's passion.
Yeah, so I think it would work with her, like working with like Haruchita. Basically, that's it. The women's division. Dark Silhouette. I mean, what's going to end up helping them is that with the situation with the man and everything, and then like their breakup with Ring of Honor, they kind of strengthened their relationship with the Japanese women's the group that they're working with, Ladies Rings, which isn't really a promotion. It's just them kind of like being they do a magazine, and it's kind of they kind of like, I guess they kind of sponsor or handle the whole bringing in talent from Mexico and bringing talent from Japan to Mexico. They worked out an agreement with Ice Ribbon, and they had some of the Ice Ribbon women show up recently, and that's kind of helped them a lot.
I didn't think to ask you about that, but I have seen some Ice Ribbon presence. I mean, just logos and stuff.
Yeah, they're in CMLL now. They were in recent. I don't know if you've seen that. They were there for 2 weeks.
Just when I was browsing on the Facebook and stuff.
They've gotten a big push as they did that whole tournament with the women. Dark Silhouette. I think Dark Silhouette won that, and they're doing more tournaments, which is a pain in the ass. That's the. But I'm okay with it. The problem is like. I just hate the fact that the way they book everything is like so, there's no real fire in the match. It's always just like, let's have these matches.
Well, exactly, and it's frustrating because there's so much potential there. There's so much talent.
Yeah.
There's so much they could do with it.
The one I should mention, the highlight of that tag match that I said wasn't very good with Rey Cometa and Espiritu Negro versus Akuma and Espanto Jr. The highlight was one of the Edecanes was wearing, because they were outfits similar to what the wrestlers were wearing, and Erica, the Edecan, was wearing the football outfit that Akuma wears.
Yes.
With the 69. And she was wearing the tight pants. And she looked way better than Akuma with those tight pants. I was like, that was the highlight. I was like, that's the highlight right there.
Oh my god. Okay,
I'm surprised. I'm surprised people did it. Surprised nobody brought it up.
I know, really.
Yeah. But I think right now people are kind of staying quiet on social media talking about certain things.
No, that's true. It's kind of refreshing because some people were getting creepy on that kind of stuff for a while. I mean, I know it's kind of going the other extreme some ways, but yeah, some people... I don't think people realize how creepy they can be.
So basically with CMLL, just to summarize it, if you want to watch okay to good matches that aren't going to get you too excited, watch CMLL. If you're expecting 5-star matches, don't watch CMLL.
That's an excellent summary, I must say. Better than I could summarize it. And
if you want storylines, you're probably not going to get it. I mean, I like it. I'm kind of like I try to be positive, and I like the new Infernales. I like the fact that Hechicero's a champion now. I like that Ultimo Girl is kind of hated now, and that kind of has added a little more to him.
Yes.
He's one of the heels that gets blamed for like asking for cheers.
Yeah.
So now he's not doing that. I like the Volador Jr. Titan tag team. I like the fact that Titan's around. Rey Cometa getting a decent push. There's some positive, but then there's so much negative. Like, it's like, I don't really want to see some of these guys.
Yeah, actually, you put it really well that people like you and I would actually, there'd be some appeal to watching some of it at least.
Yeah.
Because we grew up watching wrestling, and of course we have these little creative minds where we can be armchair bookers.
Yeah, like I would have done something different.
Yeah, exactly. and also you look at the possibilities, and there is some really good talent there, even though they're fumbling it. There's some really good workers. And
I'll probably do an article where I suggest 10 things I would do for CMLL. I keep saying that. I think every podcast, there's been like 2 podcasts where I've talked about that. Maybe 3. It's probably been 3 months.
Dude, that would be good though.
One thing I really would do is I would probably do a little bit of a focus on the lightweight division. Because for one thing, you have Virus as the guy who could kind of lead that group, as the heel that could lead that group. But if you notice, a lot of the CMLL guys that been coming in, the younger guys, they're all kind of lightweights. Panterita del Ring Jr., Sonic. There's a lot of like smaller guys that I think that would be a nice way to get them started to move. Electrico, guys that are there, that have been there. Like maybe do that just to get them like warmed up that should be the title. And then they get to work with viewers, maybe find another Rudo. I think Disturbia is also a lightweight, just to get those guys like prepped up to like elevate them.
And you know
I think
what?
that makes sense.
I would love to see like lighter guys wrestling lighter guys again. I know it's not really the goal for most wrestlers in Mexico now, but I love the lighter divisions, and I thought that it was pretty good box office.
You still get it with CML because they still do the whole weight class thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like you suddenly Barbaro Carbonario is a heavyweight.
It's like a homogenized version of what they used to have with the weight
because they used to do it like, and that's one thing I will say, like the whole weight class thing has gone like this since they started. Because remember, Karloff Lagarde would go from being a welterweight to a middleweight.
Yes,
which is natural. You do that, but then like. But with CML, there's no explanation. It's just like, he's going to wrestle this guy for the middleweight title. They had Templario on Informa. He's like, they asked him, who would you like to defend the title against? He's like, Carbonario. I'd like to defend it against Carbonario. And he's like, he's a light heavyweight. And he's like, oh, I guess I don't know. I don't know who. He's like,
I love it. Could you imagine like an MMA fighter?
Like they can't say, hey, Carvonario's gonna, like, you can't gimmick the whole thing like Carvonario's gonna lose weight for this match. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do. Yes. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
it just wouldn't
like
work.
Even Hechicero, when they asked him about being a heavyweight, he's like, well, I don't think I'm a heavyweight. I'm a light heavyweight. And they had him in the heavyweight class. But if you look at, honestly, the heavyweights in CMLL, now that LA Park and all those guys are gone, and Roosh and all those guys, they're all light heavyweights.
Yeah.
Like there's not.
That's funny when he said that. Because I'm trying to picture Nate Diaz saying, like, I'm calling out Fedor Emelianenko.
And then Joe Rogan goes, you can't wrestle him. You can't fight him. He's not in your weight class.
Yeah, he goes, I can't.
Okay, well, and then turn to the guy and go, who's available then? And that's basically what it was. And it's like, that's
funny.
So weird.
That's funny.
So Kurt, you have a new project going on.
I certainly
Tell us about
do.
this project.
Well, first off, I want to say, it's a project that I did not spark up myself.
Well, you know what though, when we were thinking about writing a book, and I think Dr. Lucha told us it was too broad of a Lucha Libre thing, even we thought about it because we started talking about there's Arena Mexico, there's of course EMLL, then there's the AAA, and then Monterrey, Tijuana, Juarez.
A good, thorough, complete history of Lucha Libre, you would have to have a whole set of encyclopedias.
Yeah, and then you don't even have access to like certain territories because they don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could do an overview of it, which
you could do an overview. That is the brilliance of old wrestling magazines like Boxy Lucha or that
Botch. That's the new one.
Botch.
That's the new one. Botch
Oh my god! My own Botch has created a new buzzword. Yes. Botch Lucha. So, but the old Box Luchas in the magazines like Zosser, and there was another one that used the Boxy Lucha.
Arena de Boxy Lucha.
They were amazing in that they not only covered Arena Mexico and Coliseo. They covered like small cow towns.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find out. You could get a decent overview of the local scene in Acapulco.
Or they tell you like the whoever was the promoter in Juarez, they'd be like, so and so's promoting a show in Juarez. And he's bringing in Black Shadow, and Black Shadow's going to team up. And you just write down the lineup.
Exactly, and they team up, and the main eventers team up with local boys.
Yeah, and then they tell you who would. Sometimes they would tell you who would win. Other times you wouldn't know. It was a mystery.
Absolutely. Yes, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, if any of you out there have not read any of the books...
Before we go, I should mention when you were talking about the book, then you suggested, hey, we should include the SoCal Luchadors. Remember the Lucha Libre thing?
Yes.
And I said, oh, now we're like expanding it a little too much, which kind of it would have been. And then I thought, it's going to be a lot of work. And we pretty much kind of gave up on the whole idea.
We gave up on it, and plus we had never wrote a book, either of us had before. Yeah. And... I must say I am very thankful that Rock Rims, who has written, I believe it's now 5 books on professional wrestling, he is now writing a book on Latino wrestlers in California. going back to the 1920s
Wow.
to present day. If you have not read any of his previous works, check them out. To that, he is going to be issuing another print of. One is called When It Was Big Time, which is the history of professional wrestling in Northern California, going back to the turn of the 20th century up until the end of the territorial era. He also did one that called Legends and Icons, which is a history of Southern California wrestling, again, going way back when? From the end of the LaBelle era. And I gotta say, I was shocked and very humbled and very happy that he asked me to co-author his newest book that will be covering the Latino wrestling scene here in California, starting from the 1920s up until present day. And if you never read any of his works, read anything he's written. He's also done a biography of Roy Shire. He did the biography of Ron Starr, which he actually worked directly with Ron Starr before he passed away.
Okay, yeah. I was going to ask you if he passed away recently.
He did. Yeah. I think it's been about 3 years now, maybe. I'm so bad at
He was really good. Ron Starr was really good. Yeah.
Great worker. Oh my God.
Didn't he team up with Cactus Jack in World Class? I think he did, right?
He might have.
Yeah, I think he did.
To be honest, I don't know, but
Might have been
I got to see him live a lot here when he worked for Anton the Ripper Leone. He was also Leone's booker, and seeing Ron Starr live was something. Yeah. He could be great as a face or a heel. He could do both just as brilliantly, and this is a really exciting project, and we're just in the beginning phases, but I encourage you, when he comes out with the reprints of the Southern California book and the Northern California book, find these, because if you read these, you'll understand why I am so jazzed. Because this guy's research is impeccable.
You know what I like about more people kind of finding more history about Lucha Libre, not just Lucha Libre, but the Latinos in the United States, is that they're kind of starting to kill the whole, I don't know if it's stigma or the belief that luchadors, Latino wrestlers, didn't become like big stars until like WCW. you know what I mean? Like when Rey Mysterio or stuff like that. I mean, you had the Guerreros and Black Corbin and the guys that kind of became Mil Mascaras, or even, it's like everybody goes, it was Mil Mascaras, and then it was Rey Mysterio Jr. and the WCW Luchadors. And that's basically it. Now what's going on with the guys,
Absolutely.
Alberto Patron, Andrade, Rush, all those guys, Bandito, all those guys. But it's like, nobody realizes that before even Mil Mascaras, Black Shadow was a pretty big star in Texas. Medico Asesino was a huge star.
Paul Bosch always said that he was like a guaranteed box office, the Medico Asesino. And Paul Bosch is one of the few American promoters who saw the value in not just using, say, Mil Mascaras or Dos Caras. He used an array of guys like Gran Marcus.
Yeah. Well, Gran Marcus became a huge star from there too. Like,
exactly.
That was
exactly.
That's why like Gran Marcus is thought of the first one, kind of like a bigger star in Texas, in people's like minds, and in Mexico they kind of he was good, but no, he was actually just as good in Mexico too. He's like, if you add it all together, he was a big star. Like,
absolutely,
it's not as far as an international star.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I'm doing research, it's just fascinating to see. Promoters from the 20s and 30s, like John McIntosh, were much more progressive than the promoters here in California, because that's where Charo Aguayo got his start. Yeah. It was in McIntosh's promotion. And for people who don't know Aguayo, he was one of the first huge Mex stars.
And he was Hispanic, right? He was Latin. He was born here.
He was born here in L.A.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we are very curious about, is we are doing research, finding, he was born here in L.A., he actually has a son who lives here in the South. Not a son, a grandson who lives in the Southland here.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure
the best way to reach him.
Well, no. Well, we're trying to figure out why was Aguayo not a huge focus here in LA. He did appear here on and off for a number of years, but his star shone in Texas and Mexico.
Yeah.
And and we're just, there's probably a lot we think we know that we don't know, and a lot we know we don't know that we want to find out. And the cool thing about Rock Rims is he's a guy who isn't spouting out answers. He's always asking questions.
Yeah.
He's always learning something. And, if I find that I'm half-ass decent at working with him and writing a book, hey, maybe we will do the project, because one of the things we are going to focus on is the local Lucha Libre community. And as I'm talking to people like Superboy and going to be interviewing a lot of the local boys who go back to the 1970s, the Arena Center days, which was started like around 74. And as I am...
Are you going to write down the questions? Because you're going to start talking about all this weird stuff. You know what I mean? You go off topic.
Hell, no. Okay, I'm going to videotape these interviews with the guys, because when I start asking the weird stuff, I want to see the expression on their faces. Like, what planet is this cat?
You're gonna be like, what was it like in LA at the time? How was the scene? And then they'll give you an answer like, remember that time we went and we were backstage and you suddenly so and so came out naked and scared everybody.
Remember the arena Paraguay with the big bucket of piss since there was no restroom for the wrestlers to use?
If you interview, you could ask Little Cholo if he still remembers that.
Oh God, yes. I remember how the smart wrestlers never put their gym bags on the floor. They always put them on chairs in case it tipped over.
I remember when I came in, I was like, what if I went in and I made the comment like, man, what if I tip this over? Like, I could be the one person that tips it over, and I'm not coming back. I think I told you, I'll see you later, Kurt. I'm not coming back in here. Because Lil Cholo and everybody else heard me, and they were laughing, but I was like, yeah. I wasn't saying, because I was like, what if this happens?
Oh, believe me, I am going to ask questions like that. Yeah. You know it. I don't know if I'm going to use it. Well, but one of the things is, I think Rock and I will both be conducting enough interviews with local boys that, and we'll probably be I don't know how we're constructing it yet. Even he said, we're still it's gonna be a learning process, figuring how much we focus on one area and who we're focusing on. But if I'm half-assed good at this, I would love to do a whole book covering the local lucha community, because it is a unique series. But I'm not even thinking that far ahead now.
Worst case scenario, we write a book and just call it the 100 Greatest Luchadors of All Time. To me, that's easier as a list. And I've already done a few lists, but to me, that's a website list, because you don't want to the only way I would do that is if I could find put stats in there, included in that in the book, not in if it's just a list.
Well, it's the time to do it, because remember how 30 years ago, if somebody did the 100 Greatest Luchadores, Tito Santana would be on the top 10.
Well, I told you when I started doing the list for Lucha, there's gonna be I'm doing a list of greatest tag teams of all time. Mm-hmm. This is people listening to this podcast will be the first, because I know you did, and a couple other people know. I just never got around to work on it. I have the list. Mm-hmm. I've already started writing a few of the teams. But one of the reasons I started doing is I started going, for whatever reason it came in my head. It's because you have the rock and roll best songs, and you look at that. Rolling Stone even redid their whole top, I think it was top 100 or top 500 songs.
100, I think it is, isn't it?
No, I think it's 500.
Was it 500?
I think it might be 500. Might be 100. Mm-hmm. I think it's 500, because I know I kept clicking on because they revised it. They revised it.
Right.
And so I was like, and I like reading lists just because I get to learn something. They're not great, but you learn something. The problem with wrestling lists is that, oh my God, people always have more than one person included in it, so there's a vote. Mm-hmm. And the list for tag teams is horrible. Okay, there's basically maybe one Mexican tag team, which of course isn't Mexican, because it's basically just this is from prior to this year. I think if they did it now, they'd probably throw in the Lucha Brothers. But it's usually just Gringos Locos, Eddie Guerrero and Love Machine. They don't even put in probably the They don't even bother any other team. And Japan, I think there was one list where the only Japanese tag team might have been Hansen and Brody or Gordy and Dr. Death. No Japanese tag teams.
Right. Wow.
And then worse, they have teams like Billy and Chuck.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are they hot?
APA. I can't, like, not even teams that are like that have been around for a long stretch of time, and I'm like, man, this is really bad.
There's
so whenever I said like,
out there.
I go, there's got to be a better list.
Well, one of the things I'm looking forward with this project is if you're going to talk about tag teams, the one that we're going to be looking into probably most in depth, unless there's something I'm forgetting, is Black Wardman and Goliath.
Yeah.
And I was watching. There's lots of matches involving Gordman and lots of matches involving Goliath, but I didn't realize how little there is of them as a tag team.
There's one from them in Japan, no?
There's one in Japan, but to show the brilliance of their tag team is there's the match where Roddy Piper was under the hood as the Canadian, and he's teaming with Chavo Guerrero, wrestling Gordman and Goliath. Just watching them work their craft. You know, they were a little past their prime, but still, I mean, they're necessary homework if you want to be a heel and really want to get over as a heel.
I think one of those tag team lists I found had Corbin and Goliath on it. Mm-hmm. But they were behind. I was going to think of like the worst team possible.
Billy and Chuck.
Billy and Chuck.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is still in the... this is still just in the sticks and stones, building the construction of this project.
Has Rock told you how long it takes for how long it took him for the other books to get?
He has, but
it might go a little longer with this one.
It's hard to tell. No, it's hard to tell with each one. But he's a guy who sets really good goals, and so
2025.
Well, I just want to thank him for thinking of me on this and asking me, and I'm excited because I'm going to learn the whole process of publishing something. You know.
Hey, I made it on a book recently.
What book did you make?
The Jericho book.
That's cool.
Yeah, remember I told you about it.
I don't remember. I'm getting old.
The top 10 list. I think you and maybe two other people I might have told that I was doing and then everybody's like, you contributed to that book. I go, yeah, but I forgot to mention it.
Oh, was this through Alex Marvez?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot to bring it up because I was going through the whole thing with my dad, his health issues, and then him passing away and all that.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, so it was kind of like it wasn't me like being depressed or anything. It was always something going on.
Well, there was something to take care of.
Yeah.
Your father passed away in the time of COVID, and that complicated things. And I just, on a personal note,
it took us like 3 to 4 months to like bury him. So
and on a personal note, I just want to say your dad was an awesome guy.
Yeah, really, and that's everybody. Our neighborhood. That's all they talk about. Like, they all think he was. Everybody's talked to us.
Your whole family's awesome. Yeah. I
don't know about my sister.
If it were not for sister, you and I would have never met.
I was telling a couple people at a bar that I go hang out. They were asking me something. I go, oh no. I told them. I go, well, Judy. Most of the people that I met end up being like best friends and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like that's why I kind of connect with the people that she like.
Oh, I'll never forget it.
Not everyone, because some of the people I just don't like that she knows, but for the most part,
you gotta be selective.
I would say for the most part, the ones that are cool, you gotta
cultivate it, dude. Yeah. You gotta cultivate it.
Yeah.
No, I worked with her. I think it was in 1997. We were both teachers' aides in a special ed class, and Fredo loves when I say. I met this girl named Judy. Oh my God, is she a beautiful woman? Oh my God, she's gorgeous. He loves hearing people talk about that. No, but your sister and I became fast buddies.
Yeah.
And when she discovered how into wrestling I am, she says, "You have to meet my brother." And then when she finally said your brother's name, it dawned on me. I saw your name in the Wrestling Observer occasionally, in the letters pages and in the thanks to areas. Yeah, so we always have to thank Judy for it. And
that's it.
Judy's awesome.
But it took so long also when it came out because books take a while once they're like publishing them and all that. So I was like, I really didn't think about it. I was just tripped out that they actually sent me a free copy, which I thought was
even
cool.
better.
Yeah. So
usually they give you a surcharge for putting a name.
Yeah, they forget about it.
Knowing wrestling, they try to charge you, saying, you have the honor of being our book, so you have to pay us.
It was cool. I mean, I enjoyed doing it. I got to watch some Chris Jericho matches. He was pretty good back then too. He's still good. I mean,
he was one of the first wrestlers who, when he hit it big in America, would actually on web pages talk about people who he learned from, and he always brought up the guys in Mexico.
And he still, the book basically talks about the guys like who he learned a lot from. Nero Casas, who's the one that told him to do, like, just move on. When you make a mistake, just move on to the next thing. Don't dwell on it. But it was funny because I also met a person at the bar I hang out at, who actually is the lead singer of another group, and they toured with Fozzy. So it was
telling me about that.
It was very
That's
funny.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy too.
I love those little 6 degree of separation meetings that you have with people where
I told him, hey, I know, because he's like that wrestler Chris Jericho, and I go, yeah, and he's like, I go, Fozzy, and he's like, yeah, we toured with him. I said, yeah. I was like, I just immediately social distance from him. Jericho's part of the whole Trump. That's the other thing. It happened also with Cornette. Like whenever people ask me to do stuff, like to appear on podcasts or do help in something, if I know too much about the person, like their political stuff, I don't really want to know about it.
I have a hard time dealing with it.
And I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to be part of it. Or it's not even like Cornette is very liberal, which is weird. I just don't like his wrestling.
I'm
the tone he uses.
See, I'm very liberal too, and I don't get off on the way he.
Yeah, like when he gets mad at somebody.
He gets too extreme. And like I said, some of his sentiments about how wrestling is run, I will agree with, but I'm not angry about it. And we have to accept not everybody thinks the way we do, and we shouldn't all be. It doesn't do anybody any good to be pissed off about it. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I don't want to say too much more about it, only because, well, of course, people who know me that I'm going to be tunnel visioning on Jimmy El Pulpo, and I have been watching whatever material there is on Vincent Lopez, and...
have you been going through the magazines? Your Lucha magazines? There might be some LA stuff.
In fact, I want to find some of the early 70s because they did cover Arena Center for a while. Not for a long time, but they did.
They have one of the Lucha Libre magazines has a feature on Jalisco.
Yeah, for a period of time, the Lucha Libre magazine, they must have had some connection when they started, I think it was in 80 to 82.
Yeah, because they talk a lot about the Chris Adams going back and forth.
Yes, and they also would have some of the local boys on the cover. Falcon de Oro.
Yes.
Who was, remember that? He was on the cover.
And you're like, well, Mr. Pepto made it later in later years.
Who was at Terremoto Quintero.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, and I think that had something to do with they were running shows at the Olympic Auditorium every couple of weeks for a while, and I kind of wonder if they thought it was going to sprout into something larger.
Yeah.
Well, that's something else we want to know about. We have a lot of questions, and we're very curious. So,
are you guys only focusing on the local luchadors, like? Well, no, because you're also mentioning like guys who went to Mexico and came back.
Yeah. Well, I think we're focusing on guys who had some involvement,
an impact
here. Mm-hmm. And in Charo Aguayo's case, why did he make such an impact in Texas but not here in California? And we're covering
Colosetti also was
Colosetti. Oh God, yeah.
Cien Caras basically started in LA, I think, as far as being a star.
Yeah, he was 77.
I think he went from Guadalajara, and instead of going directly to Mexico City, he went to they sent him to LA. He was
LA. Held the tag titles with Victor Rivera, and it's just like there's a whole candy store to explore.
Will there be anything on Aluche?
Well, he has appeared in California.
Yeah,
can't guarantee it, but I mean, we're going to present day.
You're like, but then we have to write about Tinieblas.
Well, that's when the very first time I saw Negro Casas was a turning point in my fandom, because he was an 8-man tag, and what made me think I've just watched a genius was he did some spots with Tinieblas Sr., and he actually made Tinieblas Sr. look like good.
Yeah.
I mean, and I just thought, this guy's amazing. I just knew this is a turning point. I interviewed Joey Chaos and Jezebel recently, so we're going everyone from, Latinos who kind of grew up on WWE and ones who grew up on Lucha. We're going to try to hit every little nook and cranny we
That's
can.
cool.
So thank you, Rock, for.
So I guess I should plug. I'll plug the stuff.
Yes.
Check out LuchaWorld.com.
Absolutely.
RetroWrestling.com.
Yes.
The Patreon, LuchaWorld Patreon, patreon.com/LuchaWorld. What else is there? The YouTube channel, Retro Wrestling YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And the next Lucha Classica that I will be putting up on Patreon. I think I might make it. It might be free, or I might just keep it on Patreon. There will be some talk of El Santo. He did an interview for a magazine in 1962. I can't remember if it was, obviously it's either Boxy Lucha or another Boxy Lucha, where he ranked his top 5 matches.
No way.
At that point in his career.
I look forward to that.
So we'll be talking about that.
I look forward to that.
And it's kind of funny because I was thinking maybe I should do something where I talk about his greatest matches, but then there's so much that still has to be uncovered, like the 70s. I mean, obviously there's the 5 matches he mentions, and then like if you go later on in his career, there's the Aguayo match, the Bobby Lee match,
yes,
his retirement match. But then you're looking at, what about all this other stuff? Is there other stuff that, because I'm sure he was in a lot of
there's a lot. I mean, that guy had such, not just because he was the most popular wrestler of all time in Mexico, but what a storied career that guy has had. I mean,
I'd be curious if there will ever be a point where somebody will finally be able to have so much information on lucha where they could actually just like do nonstop, like give you like who had the, because like people ask me like all the time, what was the greatest match in Lucha Libre? It's like, I don't know. Like, to me the great
and plus our top 5 greatest matches
will be from like the 80s forward, because I mean you don't go based, but like to me the greatest match all time in Mexico is probably the Black Shadow Santo match. That would be the biggest match of all time.
Oh my God! And don't you just want to scream when you know it was televised on Kinescope, but is lost to the ages?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so it's like that would, to me, is the biggest match. But then you're like, it's that match, and then it's whatever the most recent match is, Viano 3 versus Atlantis.
Exactly.
Which matches are
classic.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
The Gringos Locos versus Octagon and Hijo Santo. Casas versus Santo in LA, although that's not in Mexico, but as far as Lucha Libre, that's probably one of the greatest matches.
And when you see footage, what little footage exists from the 60s and 70s, you could tell, like, there was some awesome shit out there.
Yeah,
there was some really amazing, and it was totally different than today's, but there were some matches that were screaming that we can't.
And so you basically have to go based off what people write on magazines, and then, but to do that, you have to go through all the magazines, all this other information. So it's like, it's not something that's going to be done overnight.
No. I mean, like I've told you before, I'll have one of these old boxy luchas from 1967, and I'll spend an entire evening, because you know me, I just don't like looking at main events. I like looking at all the small towns, the regional stars in different places. I mean, Acapulco. The name is escaping at the moment, but there's a wrestler there in the 60s, and now like his great-grandchildren are involved in the local scene there.
Is it Black Silver?
No.
Because those guys,
I'm going to be embarrassed.
There's a bunch of Black Silver.
As soon as
Black Silver Jr. I think there's an Hija de Black Silver.
Because as soon as I leave and go about my stuff, I'm going to remember his name away.
Is it Aspirantito?
I think it's Apollo something.
Oh, okay.
One of the...
Apollo Torres?
No, not him.
Okay.
I get to make a fool out of myself twice in a day. Or no, I'm sure I've done it.
What I like is like to me, like looking up an old magazine and you find out that like Danny McShane was a big deal in Mexico.
Huge in Mexico.
Ricky
Pampero Firpo is Rasputin.
Yeah, Ricky Starr feuding with Perro Aguayo.
Yes.
I mean,
toward the end of his career.
Yeah, and I was like, And it's weird because I see them and like, is that because he's bald in the magazine? I'm like, is that Ricky Starr? Because to me, Ricky Starr was like young. The few times I've seen him, he was kind of young and still had hair. But then when I look at him, there's pictures online where he's older and still wrestling. It's like, well, it really is him.
It is, and and remember he was doing a Fu Manchu.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, oh, he has a Fu Manchu. Yeah. So that's what I find interesting. Like all the.
Man. And if you look on the super shows of the early Luchadors days in the 1930s, you'll see an American name you've never seen before, and 4 out of 5 times you'll find they had a history somewhere else. Studying Mexico is like just it's a never-ending gift.
I think the only thing you have to worry, you have to double check when you look at lucha magazines is like if they start telling like a story about somebody, you have to make sure like it's the right person they're talking about, because they've done I've seen a few features where they're talking about the wrong person.
Yes.
And you also have to make sure that
well, with Lucha Libre magazine,
like the results sometimes are a little bit off, but
yes,
for the most part,
Lucha Libre magazine, you also
a lot of bullshit.
yeah. Lucha Libre magazine is cool because it kind of has this cool kitschy art feel to it, but they were kind of like the actor mags of the day. I was all excited, and this is a long time ago when I first knew Rock Rims. I was all excited because I found a magazine that had a feature on Vincent Lopez, and I translated like the first couple of paragraphs, and he knew more about Vincent Lopez than I did, and he pretty much told me, that's a total work. Nothing there is true.
Yeah, see? yeah, and that's what you're reading it, because I know like there's been a few times where I'll find something, and it's like, that's not so-and-so, because I remember that time period, and he wasn't in Mexico, or it was totally like him just fake. Like some of the stuff is fake. The year I find very interesting, and it's not just in lucha, it's 1982. But if you add lucha in Japan to everything, because I know there's people that talk about the U.S. stuff, but if you add what happened in lucha in Mexico and in Japan, and even like there's stuff from England. I mean, I think you could do like an entire podcast just dedicated to 1982 because there's so much stuff like just on Ric Flair, all the places he went and all the places he didn't go, because that was the year he was going to go to Mexico. Remember?
That's right.
For EMLL, and then you also have Santos' retirement. So I think that's my next project. I want to finish everything 1982, and then I want to like cool. my next project after my other projects. Unfinished.
Well, even let's just say this is the only book I'm ever involved in. You do have to write a book because you have just too much good material not to. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, hopefully someday.
Yes. Well, anyways, we must get running. This has been a blast. It's been way too long. And until next time, which might be next week, next month, or 5 months, we don't know, but we shall return ASAP. It was good hanging with you cats.